Good morning, students. Today we are going to read the lesson A Truly Beautiful Mind. Who do you think of when you hear the word genius? Who is a genius? What qualities do you think a genius has? We shall now read about a young German civil servant who took the world by storm about 100 years ago. In the summer of 1905, the 26-year-old published in quick succession 4 groundbreaking papers about light, the motion of particles, the electrodynamics of moving bodies, and energy. His work took up early a few pages in scientific journals but changed forever our understanding of space, time, and the entire cosmos, and transformed the name Einstein into a synonym for genius. Albert Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm without any indication that he was destined for greatness. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. Freak is a word used disapprovingly to talk about a person who is unusual and doesn't behave like or think like others. So, Albert Einstein, when he was born, he was thought to be a freak. At the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't talking. When he finally did, he uttered everything twice. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him Brother Boring. Why did they call him Brother Boring? Because he was unusual. He was not like his friends. So, the youngster played by himself much of the time. He especially loved mechanical toys. Looking at his newborn sister, Maza, he said to have, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" So he said, Maza, okay, she's fine, but where are her wheels? That means he was looking for the wheels because he loved mechanical toys and he thought his sister to be a toy. A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession wouldn't matter. Why? Because he will never make a success at anything. Einstein began learning to play the violin. This is scolding by the teacher because the teachers thought that he would never become anything in life. And this boy, he learned to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to do so. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining this skill throughout his life. But Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. He was good at studies. He went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old and scored good marks in almost every subject. Einstein hated the schools because he did not like the way the teachers used to behave. At the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled that he left the school for good. Left the school for good means he left the school and he thought that he had done well because he thought that he is not gaining anything from the school. and left the school for good, left the school forever, that particular school. The previous year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. After prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland in a city which was more liberal than Munich. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics. And after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. But science wasn't the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with the walrus mustache. He also felt a special interest in a fellow student, Melva Merrick, whom he found to be a clever creature. This young Serb had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines. These people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. Means in his family he could not have that good relation with school also. But this girl he liked because they had similar likings. The couple fell in love. Letters survive in which they put their affection into words. Mixing science with tenderness, wrote Einstein, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion." In 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. He worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons, and finally scored a job in 1902 as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. While he was supposed to be assessing other people's inventions, Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. He is said to have jokingly called his desk drawer at work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. One of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Absolute means measured in itself, not in relation to anything else. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. These are all technical things that you will learn in higher classes. From this followed the world's most famous formula, which describes the relationship between mass and energy. E equals mc square, where E stands for energy, m for mass of the particle, and c is the speed of light. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Albert had wanted to marry Melva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. She thought Melva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. She was also bothered by Melva's intelligence. Both of them were equally intelligent. "She is a book like you," his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off. The pair finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. Faltered means became weak. Melba, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to world fame. In 1915, he had published his journal Theory of Relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emerged to the United States. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. Many of them had fled from fascism, just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid of Nazis could build and use atomic bomb. These are the atomic bombs that were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima of Japan. At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2nd August 1939, in which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. His words did not fail to have an effect. The Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on the Japanese city of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. Actually, Einstein had warned him that if this happens, part of America would be destroyed, but on the contrary, the American president, they themselves built the bomb and dropped it on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which brought a great destruction to the part of that world. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. This time, he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. In it, he proposed the formation of a world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. But over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics. He thought that if you want to make a change, you need to be present in politics. Agitation for an end to the arms built up, using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. So he used his popularity to maintain peace and democracy in this world. When Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. So he had also worked for the maintenance of peace in this world, and of course he is a great scientist. I hope you have understood the lesson. Please go through the lesson. Thank you, students.